From homeless to millionaire, a black man's journey inspires amid Elon Musk and Donald Trump era. Rain hammered down hard, turning the cracked sidewalks of the city into slick mirrors of gray. People rushed by, heads low, umbrellas barely doing their job. But one man stood still, not because he wanted to, but because he couldn't look away from what he'd just stumbled upon. He was a millionaire, no ordinary one, but a peculiar soul swathed in mystery. Known for getting away millions, for shaking hands in charity galas, yet always carrying a haunted look in his eyes. Tonight, in a forgotten corner of this city, the spotlight was on something neither his fortune nor his fame could touch. Under a wilted tree, faded by years of neglect, was Carla, a black homeless woman, her clothes soaked, her face tired but fierce. She wasn't alone. Wrapped snug against her were two 6-year-old twins, silent, watching. Their eyes deep, still like the scene hit him like a punch. Here was a woman, rough hands brushing her hair, whispering to the children who wouldn't speak back. The twins' eyes weren't empty. They screamed stories of pain, loss, and a longing for something lost long ago. There was an edge to Carla's touch, careful and trembling, like each gesture was a shield against a world that had wronged them all. Around them, the city's noise buzzed, a distant siren, the murmur of people who passed without pausing. Some whispered behind their hands, "Why is no one helping? Who even are they?" The millionaire felt a lump rise in his throat. It wasn't just pity. Something clawed inside him, a sharp mix of curiosity and hope that wouldn't quit. He remembered an old friend, someone from another life, someone who had vanished after a brutal event that cast shadows over his past. Could the twins? No, it felt impossible. But the city is full of surprises, and fate has a cruel way of weaving tangled threads. Carla's past was a silent scream itself. Loss buried deep, grief turned into protection. She held the boys tight because she had to, because she was their only anchor. And yet, she harbored a secret so heavy that once revealed, it might tear apart what little family they had left, or pull them all back together. The millionaire stepped forward, heart pounding. He wanted to help. Money? Sure. He had plenty. But that shiny armor of wealth suddenly felt hollow, useless. He saw the darkness outside, the cold city ready to swallow them. Worse still, he saw a shadow lurking, an oily bureaucrat with greed dripping from his smile, eyes fixed on the twins as pawns to build his soulless empire of glass and concrete. This wasn't a game. And just when hope flickered, fragile and faint, Carla whispered the truth. She wasn't just a caretaker. She was their blood, their aunt. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Family, betrayal, trust hanging by a thread. Now, the millionaire stood at a crossroads between the life he built high above in gleaming towers of excess and the raw, aching world of a woman and two boys fighting to belong. The rain softened to a drizzle. The sky bled orange as the sun sank. Shadows lengthened, swallowing the cracked park. Whose story would he help write? And what would he have to give up to do it? The question hung heavy. The past was closing in faster than the night. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. And let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The rain softened to a drizzle. The sky bled orange as the sun sank. Shadows lengthened, swallowing the cracked park. Whose story would he help write? And what would he have to give up to do it? The question weighed heavily, hanging there like the last note of a bittersweet song. But before the millionaire could step closer, a sudden scuffle emerged from the edge of the park. The kind of noise that cuts through the murmur of the city like a knife. A group of men, faces shadowed by hoodies, approached with a purposeful swagger. They were a contrast to the tired figures surrounding them, full of energy, intent on trouble. The hairs on the back of the millionaire's neck stood up. They moved like wolves, surveying their territory. "What do we have here?" one of them sneered, locking eyes with Carla. The twins shifted closer to their mother, the innocence in their eyes replaced by an instinctual understanding of danger. "Get away from us," Carla's voice trembled, but held a fierce warning. "Oh, is that right?" The man stepped forward, lips curling into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You think we're here to play? You got anything worth taking?" At that moment, everything changed. The Millionaire's heart raced. His chest tightened. He had money, sure, but this was different. He couldn't stand by. He took a step forward. Words caught in his throat. "Hey, back off!" But before he could finish, shadows swirled. A flash of motion, and one of the twins, in a fit of fear, or perhaps bravery, darted out from behind Carla. The boy shoved a small toy, a neon blue car, into the man's hand. "Please, don't hurt us. We don't have anything else." His voice trembled, but there was a fierceness in his young plea. The group paused. The leader's expression flickered, surprise melting into rage. "What's this? A little street rat thinks he can negotiate? Enough!" Carla's shout cut through the tension, echoing in the dimming light. "You don't want to do this!" Her hands reached for the boy, pulling him back. Then came an explosion of chaos. A loud bang! The sharp crack reverberated through the night. The sound almost too sudden, too real. A gunshot rang out, echoing the cries of the city. Everyone froze. One of the hoodie-clad figures fell, gripping his leg, eyes wide with shock. "Run!" Carla screamed. She grabbed both boys, launching them towards the entrance of the park. The millionaire's world twisted. The woman he had just begun to understand now became the fierce mother lion, defending her cubs. He turned, instinct prompting him to help, only to find the leader glaring back with pure venom. The air grew thick, heavy like a storm cloud, ready to burst. And just then, in the shadows lurking behind the scene, a figure stepped forward. The crowd gasped. It was a familiar face, one that turned his stomach. His old friend, the one who had vanished. "You?" The millionaire choked, disbelief flooding him. Everything he thought he knew shattered like glass. "Funny seeing you here," said the friend with a smirk that felt knife-like. "You always did have a knack for charity cases." The twins clutched Carla, bewildered. The millionaire felt a tumult inside, the past clawing at him, truth bending like iron under pressure. The world swirled around him. What had started as a simple moment of compassion now morphed into a nexus of hidden ties, betrayals, and pain. The streets echoed with fear and hidden histories, and the rain fell like tears on a broken city. Could this all be connected? What did this mean for Carla, for the boys, for him? The night was just beginning, and the shadows felt like they were closing in. The million-dollar question loomed over him, heavy and electrifying. With each heartbeat, he stood still, caught between two worlds, the glimmering heights of wealth and the bleak shadows of despair. In that moment, Carla's eyes locked onto his, fierce, demanding clarity. It was as if they held a mirror, reflecting his own fears, his regrets. Then, just as he opened his mouth to speak, a shattering sound pierced through the air. A sharp crack, a gunshot. Everyone froze. The street, alive just seconds ago, now caught in a paralyzing silence. Carla's grip on the twins tightened, and the millionaire instinctively took a step back. Fear raced through him, clouding every thought. From somewhere, chaos erupted. Shouted orders, a flurry of movement. A man, a stranger, tall and thin, with a face stitched from panic, stumbled into the alley where they stood. Blood dripped from his side, vibrant and horrifying, painting the cold concrete beneath him. He fell at their feet, gasping for breath. "Help, please!" His voice was a whisper, but desperation thrashed in his eyes. The millionaire knelt instinctively, heart pounding, but Carla pulled back, eyes wide as saucers. "We can't!" she gasped, her voice strained. Fear choked her words, but before she could finish, the man pressed a bloody hand onto the millionaire's sleeve, drawing him closer. "They are coming for me. The twins. You have to protect them." His eyes darted around, wild and filled with both terror and urgency. The twins watched, wide-eyed, as their reality cracked further, splintering into chaos. One of them, Sam, spoke up for the first time. "Mommy?" His whisper hung in the air, like a fragile thread, unraveling something deep inside Carla. The millionaire's mind raced. Protect them? Who was this man? What did he have to do with Carla and the twins? Panic morphed into confusion, then into dread. The man's words echoed. Was he in danger? A hidden enemy cloaked in shadows. He felt the cold grip of uncertainty. And then, just as quickly, another sound shattered the quiet. A sleek black car screeched to a halt at the end of the alley, doors swinging open. Figures spilled out, dark suits gleaming under the fading streetlights. Their faces were emotionless, but their march, purposeful. No hesitation, no fear. Carla understood. "Run!" she screamed, her voice cutting through the air like a lifeline. The twins didn't hesitate this time. They surged toward the exit, tiny legs propelling them forward. The millionaire followed, instinct kicking in. But as they reached the alley's mouth, a shockwave hit him harder than any storm. The government symbols emblazoned on the suits, seared into his brain. Don't. They weren't just after the man. They were hunting the twins. Stop! He yelled. But the world slowed around him. He was on the verge of losing everything, the cruel twist of fate tightening its grip. Why were the twins in danger? What secrets lingered in their innocent eyes? He turned back to Carla, desperation swelling inside him. Had she known? As chaos erupted behind him, he caught a fleeting glimpse of Carla's face, etched with unshed tears and something darker. Betrayal. That revelation crashed over him, immense and staggering, just as the blue lights ignited in the distance, illuminating the hazy evening. The true weight of what lay ahead bore down upon him, heavy and unyielding. The million-dollar question became a haunting echo. What had he walked into? And could anyone truly escape the tangled web of secrets that bound them all? The million-dollar question became a haunting echo. What had he walked into? And could anyone truly escape the tangled web of secrets that bound them all? Just as he moved to pull Carla and the twins back away from the alley, the air crackled with something ominous. "Let's go! Move!" he shouted, a raw urgency stabbing through his voice. But Carla hesitated. Her eyes remained locked onto the man on the ground, wide and disbelieving. "Please don't," she pleaded, fear ringing every word. Then the sound of heavy footsteps thundered closer. They were almost out of time. The suit-clad figures advanced, drawing nearer with every heartbeat. A knot tightened in his chest. What had they done to deserve this? Then the man on the ground gasped. "It's all connected! You don't even know!" he croaked, his face pale and twisted in pain. "She's not who you think she is!" The words hung in the air like a fog, thickening everything around them. Carla's face blanched, confusion splintering through her fierce exterior. "What do you mean?" Her voice trembled, inching toward betrayal. The man struggled against the concrete, blood soaking into the fabric of his clothes. "They need the twins and her. Time's running out." He reached out, desperate, trying to find something solid in the chaos. Suddenly, an explosion shook the alley, a deafening crash. A storefront window shattered across the street, cascading glass like crystals in the fading light. Instinct kicked in as they all flinched. But in that heartbeat of chaos, something else happened. As the millionaire turned back to Carla, everything shifted. Her hand flew out, a blinding flash glinted in the growing darkness. A small device, sleek and dangerous, appeared from her pocket. "You don't understand!" she cried, a strange urgency in her voice. Before he could register the shock, she pressed it against the man's throat. "Tell them!" she ordered, her voice fierce, demanding. "If you care at all, tell them to back off." He blinked, confusion morphing into disbelief. What the hell is this? The shock ignited a fire in his gut. Instinct told him to back away, and then the man gasped, eyes darting between the twins and Carla. You can't." But she leaned in closer, voice low and laced with an urgency he hadn't recognized before. "You know what's at stake. You never understood. I'm doing this to keep them safe." The world spun as he processed her words, everything he thought he knew unraveling. "What are you saying?" he choked, breath caught tight in his chest. "Enough!" The figure in the suit barked, advancing with a cold purpose that sent a jolt of fear through him. But the man on the ground squinted up at Carla. "No, you don't know the price." Suddenly, the twins clutched Karna's hands, their innocent confusion cutting through the looming tension. "What's happening, Mommy?" one of them whimpered. Time froze. Her gaze flickered, filled with something he couldn't place. Fear, resolve, or something darker. "I'm sorry," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Before he could register what was happening, the man opened his mouth, as if to scream the truth, when a gunshot rang out again, and everything shattered. Chaos erupted, bodies flying. The blood-curdling sound echoed through the alley like an air raid siren. His heart raced. A gasp escaped Carla's lips as she fell, and for a moment, horror surged through him. The twins screamed, a sound so innocent yet filled with life-altering terror. All the certainty he had slipped away. The fear clawed at him, tightening around his throat. He staggered back, breathless, mind spinning. Reality cracked open, spilling out chaos and truth he couldn't fathom. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But could he leave her? Could he leave the twins? Did he even know anyone in this tangled web of pain anymore? The alley felt like a trap, closing in. The $1 million he'd earned didn't matter anymore. All he felt was loss. "What did you do?" he yelled into the chaos, not knowing if he was speaking to Carla or the man who'd led them here. But as shadows tightened around him and the echoes of sirens filled the air, one truth loomed heavy. Nothing would ever be the same again. The night had just begun, and he was standing on the edge of a revelation that could change everything. What had he really walked into? The millionaire took a breath, heart thrumming in his chest as the revelation of family hung heavy between him and Carla. But before he could say anything, a loud crack split the air. A gunshot! It echoed down the damp street, sending pedestrians scrambling. The tranquil night shattered into panic. A hand flew to Carla, pulling the twins closer as shadows danced wildly in the stormy light. The millionaire's eyes went wide. Every instinct screamed at him to protect. Before he could move, a figure lunged from the alley. A man, face masked, eyes wild. He aimed straight for the twins. Time slowed. The millionaire's legs surged forward, fueled by a surge of adrenaline that coursed through his veins. One desperate leap. He shoved the twins back, felt their small bodies collide with his, the force of his movement knocking them all to the pavement. Another shot fired. Bang! The sound was deafening, followed by a haunting silence. Chaos erupted around them. Yelling, shouts of confusion, sirens blaring in the distance. The air grew thick with panic. He pushed himself off the ground, scanning wildly, adrenaline thrumming loud in his ears. Carla bolted upright, eyes wide and frantic. "Are they okay?" she gasped, fear painting her voice. The millionaire froze, heart racing as he looked down. The twins, wide-eyed and shaken, stared back at him, confusion and awe mixing like storm clouds. Then the crack of a police siren sliced through the air, lights flashing in vivid reds and blues. But the masked figure was gone, vanishing as fast as he had appeared. He opened his mouth to speak, to reassure Carla, but the words caught in his throat. Then he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps. A heavy boot slamming against the pavement, echoing ominously closer. A woman emerged, long dark hair cascading over her shoulders, silhouette sharp against the evening glow. The tension hung thick in the air. "Stop right there!" shouted a voice from across the street, the shout catching the attention of onlookers. But it was her eyes that drew him in. The same haunted look he recognized, the same pain-filled gaze he'd seen in Carla. And before he could comprehend what he was witnessing, she pointed directly at him. "Don't trust him! He's not who you think!" Gasps rippled through the crowd, tension twisting like a coil. The millionaire felt a pulse of disbelief. Who was she? What did she mean? Carla's expression twisted, anger flaring in her features. "Be quiet, Tasha! You don't know what you're talking about." "What if she does?" the millionaire interjected, confusion tightening around him like a noose. "What are you saying?" "But I know everything." Tasha's voice cut through the chaos like glass. "You don't know how deep this goes. You're part of it, aren't you?" He had no time to respond. Echoes of sirens grew near, shadows gathered in a swirling dance of confrontation. The reality he thought he understood began to warp, the weight of unspoken secrets pressing down. What was the truth behind this woman's words? Who was she? And how was she tied to the knots of pain binding Carla and the twins? As the rain began to pour harder, a new storm brewed, a storm of doubt and revelation swirling around them. The questions loomed large and unanswered, echoing in his mind. In a world of riches and power, had he overlooked the soul of something much more vital? What was he really willing to lose to understand the unraveling truth? And in that moment, the facade he'd built began to crack, exposing the underbelly of a life he thought was perfect, but now felt riddled with shadows. The millionaire stood there, heart racing. He took a breath, letting it out slowly, trying to gather himself. Family. It was a word heavy with weight. Could he step forward? Help them? The twins were watching him, eyes wide and searching, as if they sensed the tidal wave about to break. Then, without warning, the air seemed to crackle. A shout sliced through the drizzle, sharp and urgent. People turned, startled. A man burst onto the scene, wild-eyed and frantic. His clothes were disheveled, hair unkempt. He screamed, "Carla, get away from them!" A jolt of confusion pulsed through the crowd. The millionaire narrowed his eyes, instinctively moving between the man and Carla. "What's happening?" he demanded, his voice firm. "Who are you?" the stranger shot back. Fists clenched. ... What do you want with her? Enough! Carla rose, protecting the twins instinctively. Her voice was steady, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her fear. "You don't need to be here, David." David? The name struck like a thunderclap, echoing through the silence. The millionaire's mind raced. "You know him?" "Stay out of this. You don't understand." David hollered, eyes darting to the twins, then to Carla. "They need to come with me." "It's not safe here." What the hell do you mean?" The millionaire stepped forward, confusion morphing into anger. The rain fell heavier now, a rhythmic drumming against the pavement. David seemed to deflate, shoulders slumping. "I know things that could change everything. About their father. About you." The air crackled with unease. The crowd shifted, whispers racing between people. The millionaire's heart thudded loudly in his chest. What do you mean, change everything? They don't belong here. David hesitated, a pained expression flickering across his face. They're not safe, not from him, and you can't just swoop in and pretend to be a hero. Stop! Carla's voice broke the tension. David, you don't get to decide that for me. Her eyes blazed with fury, but fear also lurked beneath. You turned your back on us. You think I'm just going to let you drag us away? The millionaire felt a surge of confusion and dread. What do you mean? What does he know? And then, in a breathless moment, David blurted it out. The twins are their father. He's not just anyone. He's dangerous, and he's coming. The ground shifted beneath the millionaire's feet. Danger. The truth crashed over him like the rain. The twins' wide eyes filled with terror, a reflection of everything he didn't know. The shadows around them grew thick and suffocating. David, why now? Carla asked, voice trembling, tears sparkling like raindrops on her cheeks. Because he's searching. He's hurt people. A sudden crash interrupted him, drawing everyone's attention. A dark SUV screeched to a halt at the corner of the park. Doors flung open, figures leaping out. Panic erupted. The crowd scattered. Carla grabbed her boys, pulling them closer, eyes darting to the millionaire. His instincts kicked in. He reached for them. But time felt thin, stretched, too tight. As he glanced back at David, something in the man's expression shifted. A flicker of remorse. Or betrayal? What's happening? The question hung, heavy and loaded. In that moment, decisions loomed large before the millionaire. Choices full of consequences. The rain soaked them all, blurring lines and washing away everything they thought they knew. What would he do next? Who was truly in danger? And as shadows drew in, the air thickened with secrets waiting to spill. The millionaire stood at the fork in the road, heart hammering, breath quickening. Family? Betrayal? The reality of Carla being the twins' aunt crashed like thunder. And just as he opened his mouth to ask more, a loud crash echoed through the park, slicing through the thick tension. A dumpster toppled over nearby, sending a cloud of trash sprawling. People stopped to stare. The stillness shattered, anxiety buzzing in the air like static electricity. Carla flinched, instinctively pulling the twins closer. The millionaire's eyes darted to the source of the chaos. Out of the shadows emerged a gang of rough-looking figures. Faces obscured by hoodies, they marched toward them. A sense of purpose in their aggressive strides. The air grew thick. Hostility wrapped around them like a storm. Whispers rippled among passers-by. Curious, fearful. Who are they? What do they want? The millionaire's gut twisted. He didn't have the luxury of avoiding this. He stepped in front of Carla and the twins, the instinct to protect surging within him. "Hey, what do you want?" he shouted, his voice strong but shaky. The ringleader, a tall guy with scarred knuckles, stepped forward. His eyes glinted with malice. "You don't know who you're messing with," he sneered. "Those kids don't belong to you." "What do you mean?" the millionaire demanded, sensing the weight of something sinister about to unfold. "Their family." The ringleader laughed, a cruel bark echoing through the park. "Family? You sure about that?" He whipped out a crumpled, faded photograph from his pocket. He tossed it into the millionaire's hands. The image was old, but the faces burned into his memory. A younger Carla smiled brightly, next to a man the millionaire recognized instantly. His old friend. The one who vanished that fateful night. The one whose absence haunted him still. Cooper, how do you know him? The millionaire's voice dropped low. Panic twisted in his chest. What happened to him? The ringleader's smirk faded, replaced by a glare. He owed us, big time. You could say we were partners in business. He paused, letting the implications hang thick in the air. A dark weight settling over the park. Said he was gonna leave it all and take those kids out of the city, but he never got the chance. The million-dollar question lay bare. Could the twins really be his friend's flesh and blood? Carla's eyes widened, fear snaking through her bravado. No, he promised to protect them, she stammered, her voice trembling. He said he'd come for us. Before anyone could react, the gang moved forward, their intentions clear, hunger in their eyes. The millionaire clenched his fists. Get away from them, he yelled, rage boiling inside him. But in the chaos, a jolt of realization hit him. What if Carla knew something more? About Cooper? About the twins' past? What if everything he thought he understood was just the tip of a much darker iceberg? Then, in a swift motion, one of the gang members reached for the twins. The response from Carla was instinctual. She shoved the boys behind her, arms spread wide in defense. Tears streamed down her face as she screamed, "You will not take them!" The millionaire felt time slam to a halt. He could hear the distant sirens begin to wail, but the reality of the moment washed over him like ice water. What was he willing to give up to save them? The shadows danced around them as panic surged. Would they fight the darkness lurking at their doorstep, or would it consume them all? In the heart of the storm, every life hung in balance, and that looming question, heavy as stone, gripped his heart tighter than any chain ever could. What if their pasts were intertwined in ways he couldn't even begin to comprehend? He had to know. He had to act. With determination igniting his blood, he took a step forward, ready to face whatever came next. But the monster of the past loomed large, cold, and unyielding. The millionaire stood at the fork in the road, heart hammering, breath quickening. Family, betrayal, the reality of Carla being the twins' aunt crashed like thunder. And just as he opened his mouth to ask more, a loud crash split the air. A gunshot. It echoed down the damp street, sending pedestrians scrambling. The tranquil night shattered into panic. A hand flew to Carla, pulling the twins closer as shadows danced wildly in the stormy light. The millionaire's eyes darted to the source of the chaos. Before he could move, a figure lunged from the alley. A man, face masked, eyes wild. He aimed straight for the twins. Time slowed. The millionaire's legs surged forward, fueled by a surge of adrenaline that coursed through his veins. One desperate leap, he shoved the twins back, felt their small bodies collide with his, the force of his movement knocking them all to the pavement. Another shot fired. Bang! The sound was deafening, followed by a haunting silence. Chaos erupted around them, yelling, shouts of confusion, sirens blaring in the distance. The air grew thick with panic. He pushed himself off the ground, scanning wildly, adrenaline thrumming loud in his ears.
Carla bolte upright, eyes wide and frantic. "Are they okay?" she gasped, fear painting her voice. The twins, wide-eyed and shaken, stared back at him, confusion and awe mixing like storm clouds. Then the crack of a police siren sliced through the air, lights flashing in vivid reds and blues. But the masked figure was gone, vanishing as fast as he had appeared. He opened his mouth to speak, to reassure Carla, but the words caught in his throat. Then he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Heavy boots slammed against the pavement, echoing ominously closer. A woman emerged, long dark hair cascading over her shoulders, silhouette sharp against the evening glow. The tension hung thick in the air. "Stop right there!" shouted a voice from across the street, the command catching the attention of onlookers.
But it was her eyes that drew him in. The same haunted look he recognized, the same pain-filled gaze he'd seen in Carla. And before he could comprehend what he was witnessing, she pointed directly at him. "Don't trust him! He's not who you think!" Gasps rippled through the crowd, tension twisting like a coil. The millionaire felt a pulse of disbelief. Who was she? What did she mean? Carla's expression twisted, anger flaring in her features. "Be quiet, Tasha. You don't know what you're talking about." "What if she does?" the millionaire interjected, confusion tightening around him like a noose. "What are you saying?" Tasha's voice cut through the chaos. "Cooper is not who he was pretending to be. That money, it's blood money." The world spun on its axis. Blood money? That's what he'd built his empire on, wasn't it? The faces in the crowd blurred, shifting like shadows. "Cooper?" Carla's voice trembled, vulnerability cracking her fierce exterior. "What are you talking about?" With fire in her eyes, Tasha stepped forward. "He never left the life behind, Carla. He was playing you both. The twins are. They're part of something much bigger. You were just a way to launder it all." "No!" the millionaire shouted, disbelief flooding him. "That can't be true." But Tasha wasn't done. "You think your money elevated you? They're not just victims. They're pawns in a much larger game. Their birthrights are worth millions, dangerous millions." The air stilled. For a moment, panic tangled with wild curiosity. The twins, his skin prickled with the weight of the revelation. They weren't just innocent children in this mess. They could be targets. Tasha continued, her voice more urgent. "He's been hiding. The twins are being hunted. If you truly want to protect them, you need to know the truth about Cooper. About all of it." A scream echoed through the chaos, piercing the taut silence. The millionaire turned to see a figure emerging. It was a woman, wearing a grim expression. Cooper's sister. "Tasha, don't!" she yelled, panic in her tone. But it was too late. A massive explosion rippled through the street, sending everyone reeling. A cacophony of shattering glass and screams. The world erupted, flames licking the sky, shadows swirling. In the midst of the chaos, everything collapsed. The millionaire grasped for the twins, the truth unraveling in front of him like a nightmare come alive. That million-dollar question surged back. What had he really stumbled into? His heart raced, fear clawing at him. The night had just begun, and now where they stood was a battlefield of truths and lies. The millionaire stood there, heart racing. He took a breath, letting it out slowly, trying to gather himself. Family, betrayal, the reality of Carla being the twins' aunt crashed like thunder. And just as he opened his mouth to ask more, a loud crash split the air. A gunshot! It echoed down the damp street, sending pedestrians scrambling. The tranquil night shattered into panic. A hand flew to Carla, pulling the twins closer as shadows danced wildly in the stormy light. The millionaire's eyes darted to the source of the chaos. Before he could move, a figure lunged from the alley. A man, face masked, eyes wild. He aimed straight for the twins. Time slowed. The millionaire's legs surged forward, fueled by a surge of adrenaline that coursed through his veins. One desperate leap. He shoved the twins back, felt their small bodies collide with his, the force of his movement knocking them all to the pavement. Another shot, fired. Dong! Bang! The sound was deafening, followed by a haunting silence. Chaos erupted around them, yelling, shouts of confusion, sirens blaring in the distance. The air grew thick with panic. He pushed himself off the ground, scanning wildly, adrenaline thrumming loud in his ears. Carla bolted upright, eyes wide and frantic. "Are they okay?" she gasped, fear painting her voice. The twins, wide-eyed and shaken, stared back at him, confusion and awe mixing like storm clouds. Then the crack of a police siren sliced through the air, lights flashing in vivid reds and blues. But the masked figure was gone, vanishing as fast as he had appeared. He opened his mouth to speak, to reassure Carla, but the words caught in his throat. Then he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Heavy boots slammed against the pavement, echoing ominously closer. A woman emerged, long dark hair cascading over her shoulders, silhouette sharp against the evening glow. The tension hung thick in the air. "Stop right there!" shouted a voice from across the street, the command catching the attention of onlookers. But it was her eyes that drew him in. The same haunted look he recognized, the same pain-filled gaze he'd seen in Carla. And before he could comprehend what he was witnessing, she pointed directly at him. "Don't trust him. He's not who you think." Gasps rippled through the crowd, tension twisting like a coil. The millionaire felt a pulse of disbelief. Who was she? What did she mean? Carla's expression twisted, anger flaring in her features. "Be quiet, Tasha. You don't know what you're talking about." "What if she does?" the millionaire interjected, confusion tightening around him like a noose. "What are you saying?" "Cooper is not who he was pretending to be. That money, it's blood money. The world spun on its axis." "Blood money?" That's what he built his empire on, wasn't it? The faces in the crowd blurred, shifting like shadows. "Cooper?" Carla's voice trembled, vulnerability cracking her fierce exterior. "What are you talking about?" With fire in her eyes, Tasha stepped forward. "He never left the life behind, Carla. He was playing you both. The twins they're part of something much bigger." You were just a way to launder it all. The air stilled. For a moment, panic tangled with wild curiosity. The twins, his skin prickled with the weight of the revelation. They weren't just innocent children in this mess. They could be targets. Tasha continued, her voice more urgent. He's been hiding. The twins are being hunted. If you truly want to protect them, you need to know the truth about Cooper, about all of it. A scream echoed through the chaos, piercing the taut silence. The millionaire turned to see a figure emerging. It was a woman, wearing a grim expression. Cooper's sister. "Tasha, don't!" she yelled, panic in her tone. But it was too late. A massive explosion rippled through the street, sending everyone reeling. A cacophony of shattering glass and screams. The world erupted, flames licking the sky, shadows swirling. In the midst of the chaos, everything collapsed. The millionaire grasped for the twins, the truth unraveling in front of him like a nightmare come alive. That million-dollar question surged back. What had he really stumbled into? His heart raced, fear clawing at him. The night had just begun, and now where they stood was a battlefield of truths and lies. From the center of the fiery burst, a figure emerged, silhouetted against the flames. It was Cooper himself, alive. The crowd gasped, shock rippling like a wave, confusion spinning into reality. But it wasn't just a reunion. It was a confrontation of buried truths. Cooper smiled, but it was a smile laced with treachery, bright yet hollow. "Did you miss me?" he laughed, voice smooth yet heavy with darkness. The world shifted again. What did this mean for Carla and the twins? Behind him, the chaos exploded anew, creating an endless tide of uncertainty. The millionaire's heart sank. Everything he thought he knew was teetering on the edge, ready to fall. In a heartbeat, loyalty and deception blurred. Questions swarmed like angry bees, buzzing louder than the sirens approaching. What was the truth, really? And in this moment, all of it, the money, the family ties, the danger, was interwoven in a tapestry of betrayal. How deep did it go? And what lay beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to strike? The flames danced higher, casting long shadows as Cooper stepped forward, his face twisted into a cruel grin. Carla's eyes widened with realization. "Cooper, stop this! You don't have to do this!" "Why not?" "They're my leverage now," he sneered, looking at the twins as if they were mere pawns on a chessboard. The crowd surged, the air thick with tension. The millionaire's heart raced. He'd spent years building his empire. But this was different. This felt personal. "Back off, Cooper," the millionaire shouted, stepping protectively in front of Carla and the twins. "You don't scare me." Cooper scoffed, a glint of madness in his eyes. "You think this is about fear? This is about survival. You don't know the stakes." "Enough." The voice cut through the chaos, powerful and commanding. It was Tasha, moving with purpose. "You think this is yours to control? You underestimate who you're dealing with." The crowd paused, a gasp escaping from a few onlookers. Cooper's smirk faltered. "You're out of your league, Tasha." "Oh, really?" She stepped closer, unwavering, eyes fierce. "They're not just kids anymore. They're family. Blood runs deeper than betrayal." The air crackled with unspoken tensions. History, layered like thick fog. A siren wailed in the distance, drawing closer. Carla clutched her twins, their small hands trembling in hers. "What do you want, Cooper?" she pleaded, voice steady but eyes wavering. "Is money all that matters to you?" He laughed, but there was no joy behind it. "It's not just money. It's power, Carla. Remember that." But even he seemed aware of the weight of his own words. With one swift motion, Tasha leaned toward the twins, crouching down to meet their fearful eyes. "You're not alone," she whispered. "We'll protect you." In that moment, a wave of resolve surged. The millionaire took a deep breath, grounded by the sheer determination reflected in Tasha's eyes and the innocent trust of the twins. "Cooper," he called, voice firm, "if you want to play games, then we'll play, but not with them." The moment hung suspended, tension thundering like a storm cloud. Cooper's expression darkened. "Do you really think you can stand against me? You think they'll win?" "Together we're stronger," Carla shouted, her voice rekindling fighting spirit. A shot rang out, then silence. All their eyes shot towards the direction of the sound. A figure collapsed behind Cooper. Instantly, chaos erupted. "Run!" Tasha shouted, grabbing the twins' hands. "Move!" The millionaire swept them up, adrenaline surging as they darted away from the scene. Behind them, Cooper was shouting, but his rage melted into panicked disbelief. The streets twisted like a maze, the crack of sirens closing in. They ran until they reached a deserted alleyway, the shadows swallowing them like old secrets. The twins were panting, eyes wide and confused. "We're safe, right?" Sam, the younger of the twins, asked, looking up at the millionaire with innocent hope. "For now," he replied, heart pounding as he turned to Carla, who looked pale but resolute. "We'll figure this out together." Tears brimmed in Carla's eyes, but the weight of hopelessness was gone. "Thank you for standing with us," she whispered, squeezing the twins tightly. And then Tasha, still fierce, looked at the millionaire, urgency sharpening her voice. "We need to go. There's more to unravel, and we can't stay in one place too long." Could they truly escape the tangled web of Cooper's deception? As they stepped back into the street, the sirens echoed around them, but they moved forward with newfound unity. Shadows still chased them, but in that moment, they felt invincible, like a family against the storm. But the reality hit just as they emerged from the alley. In the distance, Cooper reappeared, fury blazing in his eyes. "Run!" the millionaire shouted, heart racing anew. The darkness loomed as they took off, leaving behind unanswered questions yet to be confronted. What would become of them? And as the storm pressed down, they moved toward the uncertainty of the night, each step pounding with the heartbeat of both fear and hope. This is it. Don't miss out. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories that will unravel those hidden truths and mysteries. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm what it craves. Flush the comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And for real, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see how this ending plays out. You have to make your voice heard. Let's keep this community alive and stay tuned for what's next.